Welp, it finally happened. If you haven't read the recent TWAB, Bungie has essentially killed sunsetting. Everybody who cleaned out their vault is going to fail the day one raid and is a complete loser. Datto's definitely going to jail. In all seriousness, a lot of this doesn't really matter. You know, Bungie talks about, oh, we want everybody to come back and fight the witness and have all their gear. And it's like, if your entire loot is stuff that hasn't been viable, you know, since sunsetting and everything, like, I'd be even surprised if you're even playing the game. But a lot of this really died last year when they changed the range changes, and this is when rangefinder got bad, or, you know, zoom was decoupled and it didn't add more crazy range. And yeah, those were situations where there actually were old items that were kind of insane. For instance, I have this auto rifle. This is still viable too. This was not sunset. This was from Season of Undying. This was the reboot of Forward Path. This is the max zoom that you can get on it, 22. I think you could get a little more range on it, but basically this was a 600 AR that was capable of almost like 50 meters, which for 600 auto rifles was never that far. But basically this thing was beaming, and I'm not saying like, oh, nobody used it, because auto rifles they got toned down after that point, and they were fine. But it was definitely something where you could be like, oh, this guy's hitting me from that far. And there was basically tons of things that were very much in this similar thing that could essentially do more than they should have been doing. With PvE, though, this is really not a big deal. You know, there's not really anything, if at all, that is like, oh my god, it's, you know, I didn't play 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, now I am behind. It's, if anything, it's just there hasn't been certain combinations of certain weapon archetypes or elements that have been out of the game for a while. And, you know, it's more of just like, oh, well, we haven't had an aggressive sidearm in a while. And, you know, we could look at weapon type, sidearm, aggressive. And it's like, there's not even a lot in general. Like, yes, Smuggler's Word was awesome. Death by Scorn was fine. Breachlight is a big favorite. And a couple of these are either behind trials in a dungeon or doesn't really exist outside of dares. So I can understand that argument, but again, this is just a whole conversation over a particular weapon and its frame, which, you know, it doesn't really matter, again, for PvE. PvP is where I think things get a bit more interesting, because there are certain things where Bungie either changed loot pools. For instance, Age-Old Bond from Last Wish. There's 2 versions. This was the original loot pool. It was or perk pool. It was a lot smaller. It has Zen Moment. Zen Moment back in the day, and only until very recently, was not great. You know, it didn't have this whole thing where it really corrected so much. So it is a bit more desirable. And this is a situation where I would say, hey, if you kept an old Age-Old Bond, it still has some value. And again, this is more PvP, because in my opinion, I feel like PvP is a rare situation where roles and stat placements and other stuff and overall stuff that helps the feel is a little more meaningful. PvE has only gotten way more friendlier, which, and I say this in a complete positive way, I'm not trying to be like, oh, it's too easy, we need to, like, you know, it needs to be Dark Souls. No, there's so many viable options in PvE, it doesn't really matter. And if you look at, you know, the new Age-Old Bond, it's missing. So there is some merit to old stuff. Like I said with you know, Age-Old Bond, Forward Path, and, you know, Time War Inspire, like, yeah, there's rapid fires that are probably better than this, and I do like the change in scope, and I kept it because I do like, you know, variety, and I do like to change how things look, where, you know, this looks a little smaller, and the other way it's like you know, more zoomed in. So, you know, there's rhymes and reasons for it. That's why I kept certain things. Duke is a classic. This was you know, people are like, oh, Duke's back. And yeah, there aren't really a ton of 120s in the kinetic slot. I mean, there is the craftable one on Neptune, but it's like, I totally get it as like a vibe where people just want to use stuff that was old and, you know, kind of comfortable. I personally love Duke because it is a rare occasion of a, you know, 120 that is kind of like it looks like Fatebringer, except a little stubbier, and that's kind of nice with like visual recoil and just a 120 snapping back and forth. So, you know, there's rhymes and reason to it. I didn't save mine, but No Feelings is a situation where I'd be like, okay, like, this is actually kind of good. The importance of this one is box breathing, which is pretty much only on, let's see, trait, box breathing. It is on, okay, scout rifle. Yeah, it's basically on every single kinetic slot, top slot. So basic, you know, like that's actually a unique situation. And it's not say like you can't use this now if you're playing, you know, non-level playlists, but hey, if you bring it into trials, it's not a bad idea. I don't, you know, it's not really that many situations where I'd want to necessarily put a scout on in trials, but you know, it's not bad. Like there is some viability to it. The one situation where I would say there is a definite outlier and it's still, you know, something that's very strong is the case of Fate Cries Foul. Now, back in Beyond Light, there was a change to how snipers were working. And basically the idea of this was that you had a lot of quick zoom snipers or quick scope snipers that had very low zoom but were very sticky. And the whole thing was that there was a layer of aim assist that was added on the scope, or on the zoom rather, so the more you had, you know, they made it a little more less sticky for the lower zoom, and if your zoom was a little higher, you know, you got a little increase. Now, the whole around 50R and change, this is what Bungie has referred to over the years as like the sweet spot. And if you look at some snipers, we got occluded finality, that's 58. This is considered pretty high for this current system. I got a Beloved I've Never Touched, and it's at 40. So that's, if you know, that whole sort of feel, silicon neuroma, pretty low zoom. So this is kind of what Bungie was trying to do over the years. They wanted to have things a bit more uniform on the lower side. Where Fate Cries Foul comes in, and again, this is a legacy weapon. This is year 2. It's got swappable scopes. The normal scope keeps it at 50, and that's, you know, that's still pretty high for a adaptive. But this brings it up to 70. And unless I'm forgetting something way more specific, this is one of the highest zooms you can have. Now, you go back to this conversation, and there has been tweaks where the lower zooms eventually, in like I think it was around Witch Queen or a little later, eventually got less, like they got a little more sticky, so it wasn't as bad. You know, talks about reduction in cone angles and stuff. The small increase, highest zoom, this is why Fate Cries Foul can be so good. And you know, if the thing is, if you don't have one, there are options. If you have played in, you know, I guess it was Curse of Osiris, yeah. Belfry Bounty has the scope. There's a green one, Troubadour, same thing, has the scope. If you have one of these scopes, I'm telling you, play around with it in PvP. It's going to feel like junk just because it doesn't have as much of the stuff. But what's really weird is that this scope is crazy zoomed. Like, let me, all right, look backwards. Like, that's kind of, that's like face pressed to the screen. Now, the appeal of that, because again, you're getting that aim assist thing, is that it can be a little more forgiving when you pop off and get somebody, you know, those shots where, oh, I got him over the head or I got him over the shoulder. This starts to glue it. I'm terrible at sniping. I can't play PvP for shit, but yeah, when I put this on and try to snipe well, it does so much work. I think one of the best summaries I could direct you towards is there was a Cami Cakes video where he's playing this on controller and just going absolutely insane, and it was very recent too, so this isn't like an old video. It was probably like a few months ago. I highly recommend checking that out, because that is probably the best summary of it that I could say. So this is a situation where I would say, hey, yeah, if you have one of these lying around, you could be in some good shape. It is, again, very awkward. Like, this sniping is all feel, you know, I understand that, But hey, if you're good at sniping and you want something that's going to be like kind of free and weird, sort of like Occluded Finality when people are like, oh, I'm getting shots that I shouldn't have and things like that. It's very similar to that, if that makes any sense. As far as anything else goes, I mean, like I said, PvE, not really. You know, again with the Zen Moment, Nation of Beasts was another one too, because they removed that on the new version, and the old version had Zen Moment. Like I said, Bungie had Zen Moment on a lot of things, and then they made it like a lot better and decided to put it on less. And you know, yeah, you could say like it's on more newer stuff, which good, but also like it, like, you know, let's see, we got that's not what I want to look at. Okay, yeah, here we go. Like Blast Furnace. Blast Furnace is something I saved on my character. You know, there's not that many aggressive burst pulses. That's another reason why I get a lot of people saving certain things, because there's certain situations where there's just not a ton of stuff where they exist in the game. Dust Rock Blues is, let's see, right here. I like that they gave it an ornament. It makes it feel like it's a different weapon. It looks cool. Dust Rock Blues, you know, I have a good Fractithis, so like I don't really need Dust Rock Blues, but I like that it exists, and I can totally get people that if they didn't, you know, ever get a Fractithis, like, hey, you have an option now, because precision shotguns are still really good. This one is, again, I would say a bit of an outlier. I would bet that unless like Bungie decides to be cool and people, you know, whatever, don't say anything of it. Like, I mean, so they haven't put Quickdraw on a lot of shotguns, aggressive shotguns, and a lot of them got changed to surplus. I would be surprised if this stays, because I feel like it's just in their nature at this point, but who knows. Other things I like, Kindled Orchid, really good. This was the 2-tap, or I think it's, let me see. I think it's 1 hit, 2 body when you have both on. So this was the curated roll that would drop, and you know, you got Kill Clip on, Rampage on, and TTK. Yeah, okay, so it goes to 1 head, 2 body, which is pretty decent. Also, this is even better. You can 2-tap with people at less resilience, which, again, a lot of this stuff, as you can tell, is more PvP oriented. A lot of holdover stuff that is just like a technicality. What else we got? Erentel used to be good, but I mean, they basically changed how. I mean, it was broken because the scope made it shoot way further than it was supposed to. You can watch old clips of that where it's just insane. I just kept it because I liked how it looked. Oh yes, Antiope or Antiope-D. This one is awesome. Let's pull this up on my guy here. There we go. So this right here is a lot of fun because, again, it had that higher zoom at 17 and it made it a lot more sticky. It also just looks really clean. I love this design where it's just a lot less stuff taking up. Would I say this is going to be beating out Unending Tempest? Probably not, because I mean, a lot of the origin stuff like Nadir Focus and even field tested for Immortals, very good. So you know, it works out. It's nothing special, but it's, you know, it's not totally unusable. Halfdan D I love. It's just it looks really cool. It was just it's like the very classic Hake model. I didn't have the one with Kill Clip or Quickdraw, and that's where it was a bit of a monster. But I mean, it's a bit pointless because high impacts are a bit of a mixed bag, and a lot of the newer ones that they have made, like the recent Iron Banner one, Lethal Abundance, was really good. So I'd rather probably use that one. Einstein D was another situation of a range outlier. I didn't have the longest range scope, but I think it was possible that you could hit on a high impact pulse like 68, maybe 70 meters. Like, it was weird. Legal Action, when people were like, oh, Legal Action feels really sticky, I think part of it is the interaction with the higher zoom. I don't remember what exactly the zoom on that was, but this one was a bit of fun just to like pull out. Let's see what else. Oh, okay. So Service Revolver. This was the rebooted Vanguard weapon, and what was sick about this one, especially with kill clip and rangefinder, this is what a lot of people called like bootleg Luna's Howl. And again, I'm trash at PvP, so this was kind of like a funny thing. I don't know why I have full auto on that, but basically what was funny with this was that this was when 180s were a lot better in year 2. And once you got all this ramped up, and you know, with the range differences and all that other stuff, where have stuff interacted, you could kind of have it work out like very similarly to how people would challenge with Luna's Howl and Not Forgotten, which was really funny. Parcel of Stardust. I love this weapon. This was this was when Rampage was crazy, because basically with Rampage, back in year what was it, let's pull this on here. Back in year 2, shotgun range on average for like most of them was like, oh god, it was like 7, 8, or no, it was maybe like 9 meters. And the thing that was crazy was that Rampage used to be a lot stronger of an effect in PvP, and so obviously it doesn't exist anymore, but there was Rampage Spec, and the whole idea of it was that you would have Rampage Spec on and it would just keep it up and you'd just be running around because there was so much ammo. You could also, I think, get opening shot on this as well. So the other trick of it was that your Rampage timer was extended with with Rampage Spec, and then you would have the opening shot reset counter, so your opening shot would be this longer shot with more damage because of the Rampage. So it was crazy. This was kind of like the sleeper if you didn't go Dust Rock Blues or Mindbenders. Let's see what else I got. This I love Jack Queen King 3. This was the reboot from Curse of Osiris. Let's put this on. This was originally the 150 archetype. That was when the lightweight still existed. And the thing I love about it is just how like it is a very clean, flat look. I also like the little like reticle side things, the sights, sort of. They're like little Vex architecture. The thing that was great with this is this had a way more aim assist, so it was a complete scam. And lastly, I'm not making this up, this was the last hand cannon that had Swashbuckler and Demolitionist on it. And why would I want this was because back when they had the old subclass things, this played out so nice with Omkar Spine and Middle Tree Blade Barrage, because you were always getting knives, and you were just you put on momentum transfer and you were just getting grenades back, and it played very nice into that loop. And when you're getting kills and getting knife kills, you know, this thing jacked up was solid. Let's see, was there anything else that I really kept? I kept, you know, this is Pyroclastic Flow. This was just a rocket. It had an ornament, and it was one of those things where it's like, I'll be damned if Bungie gives us an ornament. I think the ornament was on the pass, and it's like, I'll be damned if they give us an ornament and then they like get rid of this weapon. Oh, this was the old Twilight Oath when it could have box breathing, and it was a little obnoxious. I did not put any time in Crucible, which is probably going to drive people insane. So, I mean, that's about that. I kept the old Blasphemer because that was when they had the curated rolls, and the curated roll is like the god roll. And I think you can get this exact roll, but it's like, I'm not going to regrind for something that's already pretty good. So yeah. Is there anything else that I would say like is I mean, old Hammerhead, which doesn't really mean anything now, and this, I mean, I could probably delete that. This was more of a sentimental thing because I didn't have Ikelos shotgun for a while and was dragging the team down. I had this, honestly, I didn't really mind this this shotgun either. The look of it was cool. Hawthorns is another one I put a decent amount of time on. I like the look of it. It's a very shotgunny shotgun for this game. Let's see if I can get something on that there. Yeah, it's just like, it just looks good. I mean, there is a few that reuse that model. This is the Dust Rock Blues one. That the ornament was from Eververse, but it looked cool because it made it look all fallen-y and nice. And yeah, it had a little extra spikes on it. But again, they got rid of it. You know, sunsetting kind of killed it off sooner than later, which was a shame. I got the Show Force here. This was, again, just a different scope thing. And I don't think many even had Snapshot and Explosive. Not to say it was, like, good or anything. So, it does... I mean, again, there's, like, little neat things to find. But for the most part, again, like, nothing really crazy crucial. You know, oh, I missed out. I love Galliard. This was great. This was basically like I didn't have when Summoner right before it came out. This was like what everybody was using because 600s were insane. But yeah, like there's really like a lot of this stuff is just weird little quirks. I think that again, the case of Fate Cries Foul is the more apparent one. Like that is a valid interaction. If you have one, definitely check it out. It does some insane things, and again, if you want to use like the collections pulled one, don't forget that they're out there. Other than that, you know, it's cool that they stopped sunsetting. I always thought it was a bit weird, but I also understood that this game was never intended to go overtime. But you know, it's neat, but I don't think there's anything where you're in trouble if you don't have a certain thing from the past. That's a bit it.